Ladies and gentlemen, there is a power greater than you or me, a power that orchestrates the universe, sets the stars in place, commands the tides, and breathes life into every living soul. That power doesn't operate on our schedule. No, it works on its own. God's time is always perfect. It is neither early nor late. It is precise, it is intentional, and it is exactly what it's meant to be. God's timing is not delayed, but designed for your preparation and growth. It may feel frustrating when the answers to your prayers don't come as quickly as you hope, or when the opportunities you long for seem just out of reach. In those moments, it's easy to assume that delays are obstacles, that something has gone wrong, or even that you've been forgotten. But the truth is far more profound. God's timing is not about withholding blessings, but about ensuring that you are truly ready to receive and sustain them. It's a season of preparation, a time when God works behind the scenes to shape you, strengthen you, and equip you for what lies ahead. Imagine for a moment a seed planted in the soil. That seed doesn't sprout immediately. It spends time in the dark, hidden from view, as its roots grow deep and strong. Without this process, the plant would never be able to withstand the winds and storms it will face above ground. In the same way, God uses the seasons of waiting in your life to build your foundation. He is ensuring that when your moment comes, you won't just rise, you'll thrive and endure. This preparation isn't punishment, it's protection. It's God saying, I'm giving you time to grow, to learn, and to develop the strength you'll need for what's ahead. During these times, you might feel the urge to rush, to push ahead, to force doors open before you're ready to walk through them. But when we try to operate on our own timeline instead of God's, we often end up overwhelmed and unprepared. The job you wanted so badly might have been beyond your skill set at the time. The relationship you prayed for might have faltered if it had come before you were emotionally or spiritually mature enough to nurture it. God's delays are not denials, they are deliberate pauses to set you up for success. Preparation isn't always glamorous. It can be challenging and uncomfortable. But it is in these moments that you develop resilience. You learn to trust in God's plan, even when you don't understand it. You grow in faith, believing that He is working all things together for your good. The waiting period becomes a sacred space where transformation happens, where you move from who you are to who you're meant to be. When you understand that God's timing is designed for your preparation and growth, you stop seeing delays as obstacles and start viewing them as opportunities. Opportunities to refine your character, deepen your faith, and align your heart with God's will. This shift in perspective doesn't just bring peace, it fills you with hope. It reminds you that God's plans for you are bigger and better than anything you could plan for yourself. His timing isn't delayed, it's deliberate, purposeful, and perfect. When the time is right, you'll realize that every moment of waiting was worth it. Waiting is not a punishment, it's a season of strengthening and refinement. Often, when we are in a period of waiting, it feels as though we're stuck, as if the silence is some form of divine rejection or abandonment. But that could not be further from the truth. Waiting is not about withholding or delaying for no reason. It is about creating a fertile ground for transformation. It is a sacred process where God is working both in you and around you, preparing you for the plans He has for your life. Think of a sculptor chiseling away at a block of marble. The process is deliberate, meticulous, and sometimes seems slow. But every strike of the chisel is purposeful, refining the rough edges and revealing the masterpiece within. That's what waiting does in our lives. It removes the parts of us that are not meant to carry forward and strengthens the qualities that will enable us to thrive. In these moments, God is teaching us patience, building our endurance, and molding our character. Waiting is often where the most profound growth occurs. It's where you learn lessons that success can't teach. It's in these moments that you develop resilience, learning to hold on even when the road seems unclear. Strength is forged in the waiting, not in the rush to the destination. When you embrace the season, you begin to understand that God's delay is His way of giving you time to become the person you need to be for the blessings ahead. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. In the waiting, you gain clarity. It's a time to reflect, to seek God's will, and to align your desires with His purpose. Often we think we're ready for the next step, but God sees what we cannot. He knows that certain challenges, responsibilities, or opportunities require a level of strength and wisdom we don't yet possess. Through waiting, He equips us with the tools we'll need, not just to reach our goals, but to sustain them once we're there. This season is also a test of trust. Can you remain faithful even when you can't see what's next? Can you believe in God's promises when the answers don't come immediately? True faith isn't proven in moments of abundance, it's proven in moments of waiting. It's the ability to say, I trust you even here, even now. That trust is what refines your spirit and draws you closer to God, anchoring you in His love and grace. When you shift your perspective, you begin to see waiting not as a burden, but as a blessing. It is in the waiting that you are being made stronger, wiser, and more prepared. It's where the foundation for your future is laid. So don't despise the season you're in. Embrace it. Because when the time comes, you'll realize the waiting wasn't a delay or a punishment. It was a season of growth, refinement, and divine preparation for the life God has planned for you. Faith is trusting God's plan even when it doesn't align with your timeline. It's easy to have faith when everything falls into place according to your schedule, when life moves in the direction you expect, and when prayers are answered quickly. But true faith is forged in those moments when your plans seem to falter, when the doors you were so sure would open remain closed, and when you're left wondering why things aren't happening the way you hoped. It's in those moments that faith is not just a belief, but a choice to trust in the unseen and to lean on God's wisdom instead of your understanding. Trusting God's plan requires surrendering the need to control. It asks you to release your grip on your own timeline and hand it over to the one who knows the beginning from the end. That surrender isn't easy. It goes against our human nature to want immediate answers and clear outcomes. But when you let go, you make room for something greater. You open the door for God to work in ways you couldn't have imagined, to orchestrate blessings that exceed your limited vision. Faith isn't about seeing the whole staircase. It's about taking the next step, believing that God will provide the way. Often, what feels like a delay is actually God's way of protecting you or preparing you for something better. You may think you're ready for the blessing you've been praying for, but God sees the bigger picture. He knows that certain doors need to remain closed for your benefit, that certain opportunities would harm you if they came too soon. It's not a denial, it's divine timing. And faith is choosing to trust that His timing is perfect, even when it feels inconvenient or painful in the moment. Faith also requires patience. It's easy to grow frustrated or disheartened when life doesn't go according to plan. But in those moments, faith is the anchor that keeps you steady. It reminds you that God's promises are true, even if they're not yet visible. It's in the waiting that faith grows strongest, teaching you to rely not on what you see, but on what you believe. It's where you learn to say, God, I trust you, even though I don't understand. I believe in your plan, even though I can't see the outcome. This trust doesn't come without challenges, but it brings peace. When you release the need to force your own timeline and instead place your trust in God, you find freedom. You stop striving and start resting in the knowledge that He is in control. You begin to understand that His plan is always for your good, even when it feels uncomfortable or uncertain. Faith becomes a quiet confidence that whispers, God's plan is better than mine. Trusting God's plan over your own isn't easy, but it's necessary. It's the foundation of a life filled with purpose, peace, and divine alignment. So when your timeline doesn't match His, hold on. Trust that He is working all things together for your good. Faith isn't about immediate answers. It's about believing that God's plan, even when unseen, is far greater than anything you could ever imagine. Delay is not denial. God's promises always come to pass at the perfect moment. It can be difficult to hold on to this truth when you're in the middle of waiting. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and sometimes even years. You might begin to wonder if the promise God placed in your heart was real, or if you misunderstood His plan altogether. But delay doesn't mean that God has forgotten you. It doesn't mean He has changed His mind. A delay is simply God working in His divine timing, orchestrating everything to come together at the right moment, not just for you, but for His greater purpose. When we experience delays, our natural inclination is to question why. We compare ourselves to others, wondering why their blessings seem to come faster or easier. But comparison blinds us to the beauty of God's specific plan for our lives. What He has for you is uniquely yours, and His timing ensures that it arrives when you are fully prepared to receive and sustain it. A premature blessing can quickly become a burden, but when it comes in God's perfect timing, it carries peace, joy, and fulfillment. Think about the farmer who plants seeds in the ground. He doesn't expect to see a harvest the next day. He knows that the seeds need time to grow, that they need sunlight, water, and care. In the same way, God uses the delays in your life to cultivate you, to strengthen your faith, and to prepare you for what's to come. The waiting period is not wasted time, it's a season of preparation. It's in these moments that God refines you, shaping your character and teaching you patience, perseverance, and trust. God's promises are never empty. When He says He will do something, He fulfills it. But the fulfillment of His promises is always aligned with His divine purpose, not our human expectations. Abraham and Sarah waited decades for the child God promised them. Joseph endured years of hardship before the dream God gave him became a reality. These delays were not denials. They were seasons in which God was aligning circumstances, developing character, and ensuring that when the promises came to pass, they would bring maximum glory to Him and blessings to His people. The key to understanding delay is to focus on God's faithfulness. He has never failed, and He never will. His promises are unshakable, and His timing is flawless. When you trust in this, you can rest in the delay, knowing that it is not a punishment, but a part of His perfect plan. You begin to see that every step, every moment, every delay is leading you closer to the fulfillment of His promises. So when you feel frustrated or discouraged by delays, remind yourself that God is still at work. The delay is not a no, it's a not yet, and in that yet, He is doing more than you can see. Trust that His promises will come to pass at the perfect moment, just as they always have. Hold on to your faith, knowing that the God who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it. His timing is never early, never late, but always perfectly aligned with His plan for your life. God's timing impacts not just you, but the greater purpose you're a part of. It's easy to think that the plans God has for your life are solely about you, your dreams, your needs, and your desires. But the reality is much bigger. God's timing is intricately woven into a larger tapestry, one that connects your life with others and aligns with His overarching purpose for the world. Your story is a vital thread in a masterpiece far beyond your own understanding. When you recognize this, you begin to see that the timing of God's plans isn't just about your readiness, it's about how your life fits into His divine plan. Imagine for a moment the gears of a complex machine. Each gear, no matter its size, plays a role in the system's overall function. If one gear moves too soon or too late, the entire machine falters. Similarly, your journey is interconnected with countless others. The job you're waiting for, the relationship you're praying for, or the opportunity you long for may be tied to someone else's journey. God's timing ensures that every piece falls into place, not just for you, but for everyone involved. This interconnectedness is why trusting God's timing is so essential. While you may only see the immediate impact on your life, God sees the ripple effects. He knows how the timing of your blessing or breakthrough will influence those around you, your family, friends, co-workers, or even strangers you've yet to meet. The waiting you endure may be the very thing that allows someone else to experience God's provision, love, or guidance through your testimony. Consider the story of Joseph in the Bible. His dreams of leadership and greatness didn't come to pass immediately. Instead, he endured betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment. But through it all, God's timing was at work. Joseph's eventual rise to power didn't just fulfill his personal destiny, it saved nations during a time of famine. His story illustrates how God's plans are never isolated. They are always part of something greater, something that impacts more lives than we can imagine. Your waiting, your struggles, and even your delays are not in vain. They are part of a divine synchronization that ensures His purpose unfolds perfectly. When you focus solely on your own timeline, you might miss the beauty of how your life is being used to fulfill something greater. God's timing teaches you patience, yes, but it also teaches you perspective. It reminds you that your life is a part of a much larger mission, one that ultimately serves His glory. This understanding shifts how you view delays and unanswered prayers. Instead of seeing them as setbacks, you begin to see them as strategic pauses. God isn't just preparing you, He's preparing the circumstances and people around you. The connections He is building, the hearts He is shaping, and the situations He is aligning are all part of His perfect plan. When the time is right, everything will fall into place in a way that not only blesses you, but also fulfills His greater purpose. Trusting God's timing isn't just about patience, it's about surrender. It's about acknowledging that His ways are higher than ours and believing that He is working all things together for good. Even when you don't understand how your waiting fits into the bigger picture, you can rest in the assurance that His timing is not random but intentional. Your story, your timing, your life, they are all part of a much grander design. When you embrace this truth, you'll find peace in the waiting, knowing that God's plans are always perfect and always purposeful. The journey in the waiting shapes you for the blessings that are to come. Waiting isn't just about the passage of time, it's about the work that God is doing within you during that time. It's a process of transformation, a season of growth, and a period of preparation. While it may feel like nothing is happening on the surface, beneath it, God is shaping your character, refining your faith, and equipping you for the blessings He has prepared for you. Think of waiting as a forge where the heat of patience, perseverance, and trust molds you into a stronger, more faithful person. The blessing you're waiting for isn't just about receiving something, it's about being ready to steward it when it arrives. God doesn't just give blessings, He ensures you're prepared to handle them, to nurture them, and to use them for His glory. And often, that preparation happens in the waiting. During this time, you learn lessons you couldn't otherwise. You develop resilience through trials, patience through delays, and trust through uncertainty. Each step of the journey teaches you something vital, something that will be essential when the blessing finally arrives. The waiting isn't wasted, it's purposeful. It's God's way of ensuring that when the door opens, you're ready to walk through it with confidence, wisdom, and gratitude. Sometimes we're so focused on the destination that we overlook the value of the journey. But the journey is where transformation happens. It's where faith is deepened, where hope is renewed, and where we become the people God has called us to be. Without the waiting, we might rush into blessings we're not prepared for, and instead of joy, they might bring overwhelm or confusion. God, in His infinite wisdom, uses the waiting to ensure we are not just receivers of His blessings, but effective stewards of them. Consider how the waiting shapes your perspective. It teaches you to appreciate what you have while anticipating what's to come. It reminds you to rely on God instead of your own strength, to seek Him in the quiet moments, and to trust Him even when the path ahead isn't clear. The journey in the waiting builds gratitude, humility, and reliance on Him, all qualities that prepare you to handle His blessings with care and purpose. Waiting also builds your faith. It's easy to trust God when everything is going according to plan, but true faith is forged in uncertainty. It's in those moments when answers don't come, when doors don't open, and when timelines seem off course that your faith is tested and strengthened. The waiting becomes a testament to your trust in God's promises, a declaration that you believe in His faithfulness, even when you can't see the full picture. The waiting is not just about you, it's about aligning you with God's purpose. Sometimes He's not just preparing you, He's preparing the people, circumstances, or opportunities that will intersect with your life at the right time. The waiting ensures that when those intersections occur, everything is aligned according to His perfect will. So embrace the journey in the waiting. Instead of focusing solely on the blessing, focus on the lessons, the growth, and the transformation happening within you. Trust that God is working in ways you cannot see, shaping you for the blessings that are to come. When the waiting ends and the blessings arrive, you'll realize that the journey wasn't a delay, it was a necessary and beautiful preparation for God's perfect plan in your life. In conclusion, God's timing is never random or accidental. It is always intentional, purposeful, and perfect. As we navigate through delays, seasons of waiting, and moments of uncertainty, it's essential to remember that these times are not in vain. God is shaping us, refining our faith, and preparing us for the blessings He has in store. The waiting is a process of growth, a time when He builds our character, strengthens our trust, and aligns our lives with His greater purpose. Though it may feel like nothing is happening behind the scenes, God is orchestrating every detail, ensuring that when the time is right, everything falls into place in a way that glorifies Him and fulfills His promises. In the waiting, we are not passive, we are active participants in God's work. We are learning patience, resilience, and trust. We are preparing not just for the blessings themselves, but for the responsibility and stewardship that comes with them. And when those blessings arrive, they will be more than just rewards. They will be the culmination of everything we've learned, everything we've endured, and everything we've trusted God with. So in moments of waiting, hold on to faith. Trust that God's timing is perfect, and that delay is not denial. It's simply part of His process to prepare you for something greater. Your life is a part of a much bigger picture, and God is at work in ways you may not yet understand. But rest assured, His plan is always better than anything we can imagine, and His timing is always right. Keep trusting, keep waiting, and know that the best is yet to come.